Welcome to today's Dig In video. My name is Emily and I am an interpreter at the Missouri Botanical Garden. Today we're going to dig into the world of medicinal plants. These times, more than ever, medicine is on the front of everyone's minds. The garden, however, has always been involved in the evolution of medicine and how plants play a role. Before we begin, I wanted to emphasize that this is an introduction to historical medicinal plants. It is for educational purposes only. The Missouri Botanical Garden makes no claims to the medicinal effects of any of these plants. Consult your doctor about the use of plant-based remedies before trying any of them. Long ago, the St. Louis region was home to a large Native American culture. Centered at Cahokia Mounds, these indigenous people relied heavily on the land for food, water, tools, and of course, medicine. People all across the world have known for thousands of years that certain plants have properties that can help heal the body. Maybe you'll even recognize some of them. Let's take a look. When you get a cut or scrape on your skin, what do you use to disinfect it? Many people today will use isopropyl alcohol or hydrogen peroxide on their wounds before they bandage them up. Before these antiseptics were discovered, the Native Americans used a tree we often see in our own backyards. The nut of the black walnut tree, or Juglans nigra, was crushed down into a powder, then combined with water or a creamy substance to make a salve. This mix was applied to the skin on small wounds. Black walnut contains a chemical called tannins, which have antifungal, antiseptic, and astringent properties. The indigenous people of the area had remedies for more internal symptoms as well. At any point in our lives, we are bound to experience stuffiness in our heads from allergies or a cold. While we use something like vapor rub or over-the-counter congestion medication, the Native Americans used a beautiful flowering plant called New England aster. A member of the Asteraceae family, its use is still documented among many Native American tribes today. It was prepared as a tea or boiled in hot water to breathe in the steam. People of North America were not the only ones using plants medicinally. Across the ocean, the people of Europe had their own native plants to use for ailments. By the Victorian era, medicinal plants from Europe had spread all around the world, including here in Missouri. Let's take a look at what kinds of plants Henry Shaw used. Think about the last time you couldn't sleep. Maybe there was something on your mind. What did you do? What did you take? Over 40 million people in America have anxiety, and some have insomnia as a result. People will take anxiety medications or something like melatonin to calm the mind. Before science advanced to understand mental health like we do today, anxiety was recognized as an ailment to Europeans. The most popular plant to treat that whirling mind was lavender, or Lavandula angustifolia. This plant was crushed and mixed into a solution to create a syrup. Lavender even has its roots to herbalism today as a popular essential oil. This next plant might make you a bit hungry. So while I grab a snack, I'm asking Sean, our resident rhubarb expert, to tell me more about this sweet vegetable.
Hi, Em. Hello, everyone. I'm Sean. I'm also an interpreter at the Missouri Botanical Garden. Today, I'd like to share a little bit about rhubarb with you. Since the beginning of time, people have suffered from gastrointestinal ailments. Well, I sometimes get an upset stomach myself, so I keep some of this soothing pink elixir in my medicine cabinet. However, this particular medicine wasn't available until 1901. Well, during the Victorian era, which was 1837 to 1901, people might have grown rhubarb in their utility gardens to keep on hand for just such a problem as a digestive ailment. Or, like Henry Shaw, the founder of the Botanical Garden, they may have turned to their medicine chests to get some syrup of rhubarb. The rhubarb we use in the kitchen for culinary purposes is not the same species as that used for medicinal purposes. The medicinal rhubarb, or Rhum rhubarbarum, was first described by Carl Linnaeus in 1753. The rhizomes, or roots and underground stems, have been harvested for centuries from the wild because they contain a laxative compound known as emodin. So rhubarb was originally used as a purgative, which would induce vomiting, or a cathartic, which would induce defecation, eliminating some of these gastrointestinal ailments. During the Victorian era, rhubarb was used to treat dysentery, which we know today is actually a bacteria-caused disease of the intestines. It is still used today as a remedy in herbalism or homeopathic medicine. However, if you don't really know what you're doing with these medicines, taking them incorrectly could actually do more harm than good. For this reason, I personally don't use rhubarb when I get an upset stomach. I turn to this, even though I do enjoy the occasional strawberry rhubarb pie. Back to you, Em.
Thank you, Sean. That was so enlightening. So we've heard about the plants Native Americans used and the plants Victorians used. But what about when those worlds collide? Europeans had settled North America long before the Victorian era, and a new land required new knowledge. As Native Americans and Europeans mingled, the newcomers discovered new plants. We've all had the flu or a cold. When that happens, I head over to my closest pharmacy and pick up some over-the-counter cold and flu medicine. But before pharmacies, people in both North America and Europe turned to nature. When Europeans came to North America, they brought elderberry with them, or Sambucus nigra. What they soon discovered is Native Americans had their own species, Sambucus canadensis. Although separated by an ocean, both societies used this plant to treat symptoms of the flu and colds. There is a trick though. Elderberry must be cooked before they are made into a syrup, otherwise you'll have an upset stomach. Just like with any cold or flu medicine, sometimes those pills or syrup doesn't treat all of your symptoms. Sore throat and cough are common symptoms of a lot of illnesses. Today when we have sore throats, we use a throat spray or cough drops. Cough drops were actually invented during the Victorian era, but many still relied on remedies taught to them by Native Americans. One of these was the sassafras tree. The root and bark of Sassafras albidum was crushed and steeped to make a soothing tea. Sassafras became so popular that at one point it was the second most exported plant to Europe after tobacco. It was so popular that it was used outside of medicine and was the main ingredient in root beer. All of this is past tense though, because sassafras is no longer recommended by doctors as more studies have been conducted on its negative effects. So let's discover another plant that the indigenous people introduced to Europeans. We don't often associate it with medicine, probably because of its name, butterfly weed. Let's learn more about how this was used medicinally from my next expert, Christy.
Hi, I'm Christy McCollum, and I'm also an interpreter at the Missouri Botanical Gardens. It's allergy season, and I know many of you are out there feeling the effect, especially the asthmatics. So what do you take today for conditions like allergy and asthma? Well, as somebody who has both, I take a combination of inhalers, antihistamines, and over-the-counter medications like guaifenesin. However, if I had lived in Missouri before all of that were invented, I might have used this plant, butterfly weed, Asclepias tuberosa. Now, the first thing you might notice about these is their beautiful, showy orange flowers, but it's actually the root that is medicinal. Many Native American nations use butterfly weed for sore throat, coughs, basically anything in sort of that respiratory ailment family. They did also use it for other causes like intestinal parasites, but Europeans mainly adopted the use of it for bronchitis, pleurisy, things like that. And in fact, the colonial Americans referred to it as pleurisy root because they used it so often for these causes. They would steep theirs into a tea and drink it 2 to 3 times a day. However, since medicine has come a long way in the last couple of centuries, and we now have more effective medication for coughs and colds, this once popular remedy is rarely used anymore. Back to you, Em.
Most of the plants we've learned about today were used to treat internal symptoms. But what about skin conditions like bug bites or dry skin and small wounds? Today, we may turn to hydrating lotions or healing ointments. The Native Americans, aside from using black walnut to disinfect these areas, would have used a plant aptly named Selfheal, or Prunella vulgaris. Like black walnut, Selfheal contains tannins that help with the healing process. While black walnut did not become popular with the Europeans, Selfheal became part of the Victorian medicine cabinet. So, what should we take away from this? First of all, medicinal plants have been used for thousands of years, and some still are to this day. The Missouri Botanical Garden's William L. Brown Center has a team of ethnobotanists that focus on discovering and studying medicinal plants. Over 25% of our modern drugs are still derived from plants, yet only 2% of plants have been studied for medicinal properties. We still have so much to learn, and in order to keep learning, we have to protect all of our plants all across the world. What medicinal plants do you use? Let us know in the comments, and look out for more dig-in videos soon. To learn more about medicine in the time of Henry Shaw and how he may have used plants, check out an artifact profile I wrote about his medicine chest, linked below.